Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at Power Apps tab index and child controls in a container. Now, as you and I know, the use of keyboard is still heavily used as people navigate through all the fields when they're using a desktop app. And we need to provide these users the flexibility for that. So we'll first start by talking about what is the Z shape when it comes to the tab index, and then how we can control these child controls to flow through these fields in a much smoother way. So stick around, it will be fun. But first, here's my intro video. So let's get started. Now first, let's talk about what is tab index and the Z pattern. So the tab index property has been there for a while, and the Z control means that when you have controls on your screen, the clicking or the tabbing functionality will always start from the left side of the screen and it'll work its way to the right all the way to the end. Then it zipped passes to the next line or the next level, and then it'll go again to the most leftmost control and it works its way to the right. And therefore, from the left, it'll go all the way to the right, zip past to the next row or the next line to the left, and it works its way to the right. That's the whole concept of Z pattern. So that makes sense now what this whole thing is? Cool. Let me show it to you as a demo. So here we go. I've got an app and I've already got a whole bunch of these text controls over here. And just so that this sticks in your mind, I've actually intentionally put that as a Z pattern. But the key things you want to know over here is that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rows or different levels. And then each of them have a different number. So now I'm going to go and click on the top left, the parent text one, and I'm going to start doing my clicking with the tab key. The tab key is on my keyboard. And as I do that right now, from here, as you can see, the cursor is on the leftmost. When I click tab, oh, it went to the right. Now I click tab again, it went to the right. Now it goes to the next line. Again, goes to the next line, all the way to the left, and then again, and then again. So you see the Z pattern that has occurred over here. Now, if these three were not there, it would still do the same thing. It just doesn't care. What it does is it goes to the next line. But the key thing is it started on the extreme left, and as I was tabbing through, it went all the way to the right, and then it goes back again to the left, and then it works its way to the right. This is the out-of-the-box functionality that is there in Power Apps for controls, and I didn't have to do anything. This is out-of-the-box functionality over here. And so that is the whole concept of tab index. But now let's take it to the next level. Say, what if I wanted that in this text over here, the parent text 4, I don't want to top to the tab to that one. I actually want to skip it. For that, you got to go ahead and click on the control, and you got to search for the tab index property. So right here, tab index found it. I do a click, and by default, the tab index is 0. If it is 0, that means that it's actually going to do the tab indexing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and wipe that off from 0, and I'm going to make it a -1. Now, let's go and do a testing. So I'll go and click on preview, and I'm going to start from the top left, and I'm going to start tabbing. So tab, tab, tab. Oop, did you notice? It missed that. Let's keep going. Let's go tab, 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 tab. So it went through the remaining ones. So what happened is, since we set its tab index to -1, it skipped it, and that's what we wanted to do. Now let me share a little tidbit with you. Once you go ahead and set the tab index to -1, it may not take effect immediately. In order for you to just verify that, go ahead and save it, publish it, and then close the app. Then open it again, and then go back into the designer or Canvas design and test it. I bet you it'll work after that. I have noticed every once in a while that it won't take effect immediately, so I thought I'll share that little tidbit with you all. But that was it. This is the key thing. So now I can actually go ahead and do some other testing to make sure that I can skip it. And that gives you, as the maker of the app, full control on how should be the flow of all of these controls. As the user is hitting the tab, you can tell, no, I want you to go from this to that, and so on and so forth. That's basically how you control over there. And I'll show you in the next levels how you can actually manage which one of them should come first and everything. But here's the overall concept of the tab index and the Z pattern. So now let's go and see how we can factor that in with containers and all the child controls. So here's my next screen, and it actually looks exactly like the one before, but there's one major difference. So as I go and expand my tree view, you will see that all of these text controls are inside a container. If I go and click expand on the top, you will see that they were all individually added, which is true, they are added individually as well. But these ones on the screen one were not in a container. This one is in the container. So the big difference that happens is now when I click on it, you can see the container over there, but now I get two more features, and that is the prioritize child control and the enable child control focus. So by default, they're both on. So keep that in mind. You don't have to toggle them off. By default, they're both on. And we'll actually start from the first one on the bottom. The very fact that the name says enable child control, which means that if you've got controls inside a container, they are by default on, which means that anytime you're going ahead and toggling, I mean, we're hitting tab, tab, tab. If this is turned on over here, the tabbing will also take effect inside this control. But if you want that to be disabled, you go ahead and turn this off. Second thing is that, say if this was a much smaller effect over here, okay, this was much small over here, and then there were much more buttons on the top. Once you went in and started hitting tab over here, and then you go to the next one, it'll actually get inside this container. Then what will happen is all the tabbing will first become prioritized inside the container. It'll actually make sure that, do I go through all the text in the container? Once that is done, then it'll go out to the next one. So kind of make sure that you understand that a little bit, because now I'm going to demo it to you and that'll make more sense. So I'm going to go to the next screen. And as you can see now, I've taken a combination. I've got these controls. These are individual buttons which are added on the top. I'm sorry, they're individual texts. And then here is my container, and the container's got 3 other texts. By default, in my container, I've got them both on, which is the default. And then these ones also are all there. Also, the text controls are on the top, which is these, this one, and that one. All of them have their tab index set to 0, which means all of them will function. So let me go and do a text test right now. Okay, I'm going to start from the top left, and I'm going to do the tab. Now they have all their little controls turned on, which means if I click on tab, it goes to the top. It finishes from here. It went and finished that one because they're on the top. Then it went into directly over here, which is there. And now it will finish that off, finish that off, finish that off. Then it goes into the parent one, and then it goes to the parent one outside. Now, this looks normal because if you think about it, there are these different levels. But I want to kind of prove a point to you. So I'm going to take these two, and I'm going to move them to the top. So now it'll look like, okay, that's one level. This is the second level, this is the third level, and this is the fourth level. So as I see with my eyes, I would think that the tabbing should start from the top two. It'll move from here, then here, then it should move to this one, and then the green one, and then back to the top bottom ones away. At least that's how I'm thinking about it. But because we've got this container and we've got the prioritized child controls, something different is going to happen. So let's test it. I'm going to come up to the top, and I'm going to hit tab, and it went to the right, which is correct because both are on the top. Now I go to the left, I hit a tab again, it goes on the bottom one, which we recognized it. Then I go to the next one, again we recognized it. However, if I click on next tab, see it skipped this one. Because this is under a container and we've set that toggle option off for the child control, it finishes the container first. Then it goes to the outside and then it goes over here. That's the importance of this piece over here, is understanding that when you've got this functionality over here in our container, you've got the prioritized child controls on. Once you've hit the container section, it will prioritize, which means it'll finish the toggling inside this container. Then it'll go to the next level, which is goes outside. So kind of doesn't make sense what was happening. Again, as a recap, because we've got the child prioritized container toggle on, it is finishing the top sentence or the top row, which is correct. But once it gets into the container, it will finish the container first, then it goes outside over here. But I want to kind of build on this, all right? So let's go now to my next scenario is where I got this screen, and this screen I've actually added into a few other levels. So what will happen is, let me go and expand this tree view so you can have an understanding, is I've got now containers at 2 levels. So I have this original one, which is the text, doesn't have any container, it's sitting outside. Then I have this container, all right? These are the original containers that I have inside this section. But so this is one container, and then inside that I have another container, all right? So now, just behind the demo we just saw a few seconds ago, you kind of have an understanding of how this is going to work. Now I can already know that your wheels are turning. Let's demo it just to see what happens. And by the way, when I click on all the containers, the default toggles are left on, so I haven't done anything to that. And each of these also have their default tab index set to 0. So everything is set to default. Let's go and do a test. All right, so we're going to go and start over here. I'm going to hit tab. We understood that. Now we're going to do tab because it went to the Z thing. Remember over here, went straight back over here, made that Z turn. Next, I'm going to hit tab. Obviously, finish that. Now we're going to go and do tab. All right, so you understand now it didn't go ahead, like it didn't go and do this container first because we thought that this is a container, but no, it went to the next row, the next level, and it went inside this container. However, it's the final container inside, which means that we will finish this piece over here, and then we will go outside and then work its way over here. Again, then go outside and finish its piece over here. So I want to actually now, jazz things up a little bit. So let me take this one, which is in the first level container. I'm going to move this one up a little bit, all right? So now, technically, we've leveled this up a little. But we will notice that because we've gone ahead and left this toggle switches on as is, even this one's toggle switches on as is, it will still finish toggling through this internal container, all 4 of them, before it jumps back outside over here. So watch what happens. I hit tab, tab. We are on the outside. Now tab. We've come inside the first container. Now I hit tab. We are still on the top row, on the first container. Hit tab. Now we are on the second container. Hit tab. Okay, that's 1 row. But now, watch, even though this is higher than this, all right, its X and its Y value is still higher, but because we've left the toggle switches on, I hit tab, see, it still goes there, tab, we are finishing this container. Then I go, oh, yep, now we go out to that container, we finish that container, then we go here, and then we go here. Is this now making sense how powerful that tab container is, and in conjunction with this inside containers child prioritized controls, how you can prioritize. You literally can go ahead and do that to make sure everything works. But here's something I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to now go ahead and actually the prioritize child controls for the inside container. I'm going to go and toggle that one off. All right. So now let's go and do a test. So I'll go now out here, tab, 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 tab. Now the next one, watch. Oh, it went outside over here. Because remember in the first one, it went here and here, then it went outside. However, from here, now if I hit tab, it went outside. Why? Because I went ahead and disabled this inside containers prioritize child controls. I went and turned it off. So right now, this is no longer prioritized, which means it is monitoring whose Y is at the next level. So this one's Y axis came in here. Now I went and hit toggle. Hit tab. Now this one's next Y. So it went and go in here. If I hit tab again, you guessed it, it'll come out over here. Then it goes down here, 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 and here. Is this all making sense how powerful it is? And the flexibility that you have, that you go ahead and control how you can manipulate the projection or the movement of the tabbing, even if though you've got controls and containers and everything, you can go and take care of that. So finally, in this piece over here, I'm going to go ahead and check that box. I'm going to just go in and toggle off the entire child controls, which means what's going to happen is all these 4 text boxes, all of them will be completely disabled, or no tabbing will happen over there. So let's do a test. On the top left, I hit tab, tab, tab. This entire thing will be completely skipped. Watch. I go here, and then I tab and tab. We completely skipped this. And we were able to successfully do that because we went in and toggled this one off. So is this all making sense? So now let me take you to another example, and that will solidify this entire concept that I've just taught you. So I'm going to go to my left over here. I'm going to minimize this, and let's go over here. I call this my overlapping screen. And as you can see, it looks a little complicated, but let's spend a few minutes over here. I'm going to go and click on preview. So you can kind of understand that these 4, which were always outside, are independent text controls. And I intentionally went ahead and left these lines of the container so you can see which of them are there. And now you can actually almost notice that there is actually 3 different containers. So these 2 first level child text 1 and then child text 3, they are inside this one container, and it's all the way to the left. Then in between, even though they overlap a little bit, this is another container, but this one, that one, and that one, these 2 yellows and these 2 oranges, they are all inside a container. And then finally, we have the container to the right, and it only has 3 of them. There's this yellow, that yellow, and in between. But I intentionally and purposefully completely overlapped the 2 just to make a poor point. And also, if you notice, I've completely thrown off their Y values over here. So if you notice, these 2 are on the top. Then comes this one, all right? Then comes actually that one. Then this one, then that one, then this one, and that 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 one. I wanted to mess around with that and completely make it as realistic as possible to demonstrate that to you. So in the first tabbing that we're going to do, everything is left out of the box. What does that mean? That means is that for each of them over here, I have left their tab index as 0. The one on the top left, all of these on the outsides, basically the parent text 1, 2, 3, 4, their tab index is left to 0 by default on. Then this container over here, I call it the left container, both of their toggle switches are left on as default. Right over here in between as well, my middle container, their toggle switches are left on as is. and so on over here. So now let's go and do a test of all the tabbing and let's understand what's going on, all right? So I'm going to come on to the top left. I'm going to click on tab. Top one is easy because we know that this is on top and this is on top. So it's pretty much going to go from here to there. So first tab, it went over there. Now let's understand what's going on. I'm going to hit on tab. All right. So it came over here, even though it's the middle container, but we understand it because based on the comparison of its y-axis, this one was spot on the next one. We knew that, all right? So that's there. But now if I hit tab, what's going to happen? So let's think about that. Let's see if we can make a good estimated guess over here. Because all the toggle switches were left on by default, and this is a container, we make a guess, an educated guess, that the next tab is going to be this one, that one, and that one. So let's see what happens. Okay. Oh, we made a good guess. It went there, went there, went there. So it stayed inside the container. Now let's think about the next one. All right. So now I'm doing a comparison between the y-axis. And I do think that this one's y-axis is a little higher. So if I now hit toggle switch over here, it's going to go up to that one. So I can hit toggle switch and yep, you see the cursor blinking over there. But because this is a container and we left the two toggle switches on as is, it's going to jump down to here and here. And watch what happens. Yep, it did. Yep, it did. It moved down over here. Now I can go and hit on tab and this is where stuff gets a little confusing. Okay, what's going to happen? Watch, let's say hit tab. See, it went on to that one and it went on to this one. Because do you now understand that the reason it went from there to there is because this one is next in line. However, it didn't jump to this one next because it had to go and finish all of these. Then it went to the top left and then it went over here to the bottom. Now if I tab, it goes here and here. Understanding what is going on, I made this intentionally complicated for you all to understand what's going on. So now if I do a test on it, again, the way that it navigates doesn't make any sense if you look at it from the untrained eye. But now that I've just taught you how the tab index works and how all these prioritizing child controls works, it's making sense to you. But let's just go and do it again because it makes no sense how it works if you look at it from an untrained eye. So I'm going to hit tab, 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 and tab, and tab, and tab, and tab. You see how it works? It's kind of funky how it works, but let's now see that if you want to make it look like it makes sense to the trained eye, what would we do for that? Well, we would actually have to turn off a few toggle switches. Well, the question is, which ones do we turn off? Well, let's go think about that, all right? So I'm going to go and get off preview. And the first one I want to meddle with is this guy over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to disable its prioritized child controls. Don't disable the entire control itself because then that will make sure that these two just do not participate in the tabbing. What we want to do is we want to disable in the prioritized child control. And in fact, we're going to do that for the other ones as well. All the remaining containers, go ahead and completely disable it. Now, let's go ahead and do tabbing and see what happens. So we're going to start again from the parent text on the extreme top left. And I hit tab. Again, no problem. Then I hit tab. Again, no problem. See, it went to that. Completely separate container. But now all it cares about is which is the next y-axis which is available. So if I make a good guesstimate, now it's not going to jump down to this one. In fact, it will go over to this one because if you do a quick visual comparison, this guy's value, y value is next. So if I'm here now, I'm here, I can see my cursor blinking. If I hit tab, oh, it went over there. Now if I hit tab again, it went over here because its y value is next. Hit tab, it goes over here. So you see, it doesn't care about the containers holding it. All it looks like is the y value. And I'm going. This makes sense to the untrained eye. Why? Because the child control, we went ahead and toggled it off. Isn't that awesome? That we've got this level of flexibility to control how our keyboard navigation using the tab index works over here. So let me now show you an example of how something like this could be used. So I'm going to X out of this and I'll actually go to my final screen. And I tried to make this screen a little bit more user-friendly. And just to show you, on the top, we're basically filling out a form, but I intentionally put this section over here because if you think about it, some of the forms, especially those that you handwrite, there is something sections where we as a end user or as a customer or as a patient, we've got to fill this out, but there is something only for office use, which means we don't have to fill this out. And now using both the tab index and the child property controls we can toggle off, I can control that. So watch. This section over here is by default filled, so I don't have to do any filling, which is why its display mode is set to view. And what I can also do is that its tab control, the tab index, I can go ahead and set that to -1, which means if somebody even clicked on it or if there was another field before that, it will just skip this one altogether for the tabbing. And so now if I go and click on this, tab it, it did tab. Let me just go back again, right? I selected something, I tab it, it came over here. I tab it, it came over there. I tab it, and it went straight to the button. It skipped this altogether. And why did it skip it? Because I set that as a container, and it's child prioritized control focus. I went ahead and toggled that off. So do you see the beauty of this? And then do you also see how realistically we can use this in the real world scenario? So wasn't that awesome? I mean, I was really geeking out as I was building this demo, especially the last overlap screen over there, because I went and added so many controls, and then I was able to put them in separate containers. And then when you first go in and start tabbing, it doesn't make sense to the human eye, but that's the beauty of it, is you've got full control on how the tab navigation should go, so that you can dictate how the form should be used, what the user should focus on before they actually go and take a look at the next screen or something. That is the power of containers with all the other child controls in it. So hopefully this was helpful to you. And as always, keep using Power Apps. Hey everyone, hopefully you found this video useful. And if you did, can you help me help you? Can you subscribe to this YouTube channel? Because remember, I provide fresh content on a weekly basis and it's 100% free. So if you have subscribed, thank you so much and pass the word. But if you haven't, subscribe, click on the bell notification and let the learning begin.